Assalamu alaikum. So, a lot of things have actually happened since we recorded this episode that we're going to release today. But so we talked in this episode with a special guest about Dina Tokio and how she took off the hijab. But last week or so, there was something that actually, worse happened, and that was that Dina Tokio shared an article piece that was titled, why Muslim women should marry non-Muslim men. And it was written by, a sister with the Instagram name of Your Fave Brown Girl, and caused an uproar, right? And people like Ali Dawa did, a video reacting to that. And obviously it's clearly against the Quran and Sunnah to promote such ideologies, essentially. And what's actually happened today is that because they're obviously getting a lot of criticism, and people made reaction videos to it, Dina Tokio actually removed that article from her blog. And so it's interesting that, to just kind of talk about the article specifically, there was a point where the author mentioned, or she mentioned that, God tells us to reflect and use our reason many, many times throughout the Holy Quran. So I did that, and I logically conclude that it makes no sense that Muslim women are strictly forbidden from marrying non-Muslim men. So it's amazing how, desires are at play to some degree, I assume, in saying that, and it's important that we bring this to light, that we should try to stick by the Quran and Sunnah and use our logic and reason to know that the Quran is from Allah, not to try to contradict the Quran. So inshallah, this episode that we're gonna release is gonna deal with Dina Tokio's removal of hijab specifically, with two other sisters, like in a round table discussion. So inshallah, we'll also touch on other topics like Muslims in business, hijab, and all the other good stuff. So inshallah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Boys in the Cave. My name is Tanzim, and I'm joined by my co-host Josh and Rafael. So in this special episode, we actually got two special guests. So one is a special co-host that's on our show today, and also a special guest. So our special co-host today is Nabila Islam, who is actually Rafael's wife. And the reason we got her on today is that she's actually involved in various aspects of the modest fashion industry in Australia. So it would be good to kind of get her thoughts and what she's experienced. And alhamdulillah, we've also got another special guest with us. So the guest we have on is Monika Sarker. So she's a YouTuber, part of HijabiBengaliSisters, and she's also a photographer and videographer. So assalamu alaikum, Monika and Nabila, and welcome to Boys in the Cave.
Walaikum salam, and thank you.
Yeah, anytime. Actually, I want to direct it or put the attention on Nabila for a second, because Nabila actually watches your videos, Monika. So, and on top of
really?
that, she's more in tune with what's going on. So, yeah, you want to take it from there, Nabila?
Yeah, I've been watching Monika and your sister's videos since I was really young, and I think it's been a platform for young Muslim girls. I'm Bengali myself, so it's really good to have that representation.
Nice.
And it was like a breath of fresh air, not entirely modest fashion, but also just relatable girls who kind of incorporated dawah into their videos. So that was really nice. And
thank you,
guys.
I've also been watching. I've been watching you guys for years as well. Yeah, you guys have a younger brother, right?
He's so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have a younger brother. I mean, at first he wasn't really involved, but we kind of made him, because we're like, hey, you're gonna get good deeds if you get involved. He's like, okay, true. And now anytime he goes to school, everyone's like, oh my God, aren't you Monika Nishia's brother? And he's like, what the heck? I have an identity, So
That's pretty funny
Yeah.
because I sort of identified with him because I also watched your videos growing up,
Uh-huh.
or like the last 4 or 5 years, and he seemed a bit dorky, like when I first started
Yeah.
watching. But then he started going to the gym because I watched like some of the more recent videos, and he just looks really handsome now. Like it wasn't before.
Oh, trust me. No, it's very true because when he was young, he used to get bullied a lot. Called names, like, oh, you're too feminine, all that kind of, bullying. And it's funny because time after time, like now you see my brother all like jacked up and buff and everything. All the people that called him feminine are kind of feminine now, and he's the one looking like a man. And I'm like, and he had a lot of insecurities too, and he worked so hard at it, at like bettering himself and not allowing the haters to be like something that doesn't make him want to be a better person. In fact, he used the haters as a motivator.
Yeah, he looks great. And I wanted to ask about your sister. So is she not as involved with your like hijabi Bengali like productions and stuff as much?
So I guess to start it off, how we really started was I was really into making videos. As you can see, I'm a videographer now, but I was really into making videos. And when my sister and I, we were thinking to wear the hijab, we came first around a sister named Yaz Spaz on YouTube, and she really inspired us. So anyways, we started wearing the hijab, and I was trying to do some research on the hijab, and I randomly came across this YouTube video, and it was a very racist YouTube video, and it was this woman talking about this Pakistani woman who basically took off her hijab, and that her dad killed her for it. And so she's like, if it is true that Islam says freedom, you have freedom to take off the hijab and wear it wherever, then take off your hijab, show that you are free, whatever. So I got mad. I'm like, Nishia, let's make a video and stuff like that on it, like just to like respond to her. And so that's how we initially started. And we're like, oh, we're gonna put a hijab on top of our hijab. Like we were just being all sassy and everything. And like, so I would like kind of like pull her into it. I'm like, come on, let's just make more videos and more videos. And like, then she started to get more into it. But like, obviously, eventually as we're growing up, like we have other things to do. And so like, she hasn't been so into it as much. And she kind of started her own YouTube video, which I'd never allowed her to, but I was like, you know what, it's okay. You have the freedom to, make your own name and stuff like that. But yeah, not as much now because she's so busy with work and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, you guys are from New York, right?
No, we're not. I actually don't want to say where we're from because we have really creepy stalkers.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. Because I just wanted to ask, because we're pretty much all Bengali here, except for Raf, but married to Nabila, who's Bengali. And I just wanted to ask, the community sort of like in wherever you're from, or just in America in general.
I mean, I do, okay, like basically I don't chill with that many Desi people. When we were much younger, yes, we were more involved with the Bengali community, and it's because our family kind of forced us to, like, yeah, they're Bengali, go talk to them, they're wearing saris, wear this and that, just like cultural based. When we weren't religious, we were very cultural. And I just never understood Islam because like they tell me, oh, don't talk to boys, but then you can wear a sari and show your belly. I'm like, what? That makes no sense to me, And so yeah, I would say that Bengalis, I mean, I would say mashallah, I guess they're normal. They're just like any other Bengali, to be honest. It's just I don't chill with that many. I'm very picky with my friends.
Yeah, because here in Sydney, it's actually a pretty big community. So like I know Josh lives in the east side of Sydney, and I'm more in the west. So even though we're like spread apart, the communities are so intertwined. It's like a big community out there, and I actually have some interesting thoughts about it. Like people, I don't know, I just hate the Bengali community so much. I try to like steer away from them because they're so judgmental. But yeah. What about you, Josh?
No, I can relate to it.
I guess no. I mean, my experience of the Bengali community has been very positive by and large. Like since I moved into it, I mean, yes, there are some very strange ideas about
mysterious hadith.
Yeah, mysterious. So I call it like the Bengali hadith, where literally, I've heard some really interesting narrations. I'm pretty sure I'm from one of the 6 like big hadith books, but definitely narrated by aunties in the just like, I'm not sure if this I heard. One of the other ones I heard recently, and it's actually very topical at the moment. Someone said, the Prophet ﷺ said that a man can never go to Jannah if his wife takes off hijab.
What?
Yeah, apparently that's a Sahih hadith. So that's like just the beginning of it too. Like I've heard so many things, but moving like in that kind of direction, and one of your most recent videos is very topical.
Yeah,
and you talked a lot about Dina Tokio removing her hijab. Do you think how significant do you think this is? Because my kind of perspective on it is, it's like we give these things more significance than they need to be given, in the sense that it's just one, like, yes, this woman is influential in the community, or perhaps she's not that influential, or perhaps she shouldn't be that influential. These are all points that you could make. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is are we making a bigger deal out of this than needs to be made? There's hundreds. I'm sure if you collected all the YouTube videos about Dina Tokio removing the hijab, you'd have hundreds and thousands of views in total.
Yeah.
So it's obviously affecting a lot of people. So I just wanted to ask you, why do you think that's the case, and should that be the case?
So I personally think a lot of people look up to Dina Tokio for years. And so, like just like me, for example, I've mentioned in my video, I would look up to Yaz the Spaz as like a hijabi YouTuber, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like she's the one who inspired me to wear the hijab. So it's kind of the same for those people who made it into a big deal, because they kind of probably see her as their icon and like, oh my god, she's my inspiration. So for them, it's probably a huge deal. And as she has made hijab a thing for bloggers, I guess, and made it very popular. And so I guess it's like a huge thing for the females, more like. But for me personally, it wasn't, when I made that video, it wasn't like more about Dina. Like I understood that Dina was the thing to talk about. I kind of used that as an opportunity, because like for me, I know how to market things, and I know also when to talk about something. And if you check my YouTube channel, like, or my sister and I's YouTube channel, like we don't post consistently. It's like once every 2-3 months or whatever. It's like whenever we feel like it's important to post something and something needs to be talked about. So when I made that video, it wasn't with the intention, let me bash Dina Tokio. No, like I sympathize with her. Like I even said in the video, I understand what she means. She's talking about being bullied, many times in my life. And people told me, oh, what's the point? You wear makeup. There's no point of you wearing the hijab. Oh, you wear pants. No point. And I get that. But I would still wear the hijab, because initially my intention's always been just for myself. I've never worked for anybody or to please anybody. But when I made that video, it was more to talk about the broader thing, that we're kind of all like losing sight of what the hijab really is. I know that Dina Tokio, made some comments here and there, and I think that's what made it really big. Because I think if she took it off, people might be like, oh my gosh, she took it off. But like some people might be like, oh well, I kind of saw it coming or whatever. But at the same time, it wouldn't be as big. I feel like it became big because she's like, oh, the hijabi cult, and people wanted to take it off, in different ways. Like, is she calling all of us cults? We, made her famous, So for me personally, I made it more to talk about the general people of like, because as women, like I'm sure Nabila can relate, like, when we go on Instagram and social media, like we see a bunch of hijabis, mashallah, they're so beautiful. But, like slowly by slowly, it's like going more back and back, like the hijab. And you're like, and I know some friends who started doing that too, because they started to get influenced, and not by Dina Tokio specifically, but just in general by social media. And they'd be like, oh my God, what is the point of me even wearing the hijab, girl? Like convince me, because like literally all my hair is showing. And I would try to remind them, remember, it's for Allah, it's not for this, it's not for beauty. And even I sometimes back away from social media as soon as I realize like that social media thing is it's weird. It's like, like there's this non-hijabi perspective of how to dress on Instagram, like that makeup look, wing eyeliner, all that. And now there's like a hijabi version of that, and it's like the hijabis are kind of adapting to that look, and it's been affecting a lot of people. And that's what I really wanted to talk about, is how hijab has been less about the religion, more about selling the product of the hijab, and less about the meaning. So yeah.
I feel like it's one of the great points you made in the video is that like Dina sort of built her entire brand on being on the hijab and being modest and the tutorials. And if like all these years later she comes around and turns it around, but it's disingenuous to the fans. I'm not even like making it slang for it, but it's more like so what are you trying to do really? Are you just about like selling your own instead of about the modesty part? As in that's I think least moralizing angle, but
there was a discussion actually about the commoditization of hijab in these kinds of industries and whether you're taking a religious act of worship, right, which is the hijab, and turning it into a commodity, like a business. And there's a lot of ethical questions that need to be raised about that. But I was going to ask you, Nabila, like you've obviously been discussing this topic a lot. What's your kind of take on this idea of Dina Tokio as calling the hijabis a cult, and the idea of like modest fashion and social media as a sort of negative influence on the practice of hijab?
I think I've thought about it a lot, just being in the space myself, and how, like Monika mentioned, the social media having some sort of negative and like wanting to take a step away, and I totally relate to that. In relation to commoditizing the hijab, it's I think it all began to in a positive space to help women wear the hijab in specific spaces like the workforce, in like just anywhere in the West really. But I can see how it's kind of evolved into something maybe not as positive as it was once, and I think that Dina calling the hijabi community a cult, like I think that was poor articulation. I think she was just very frustrated, and I can see her point in that. I mean, if you've got comments on your videos where you post, in any attempt at modesty, and the comments are take it off, it's no different to the comments I faced, because I wear makeup or I wear like, jeans and maybe not the most modest clothing. And I'm not here to, justify the way I practice hijab. And most, people in the modest fashion space, or just like most young Muslims trying to practice the hijab would know that we've been haram policed. We've been told that this is not hijab, and if you're gonna wear it properly or take it off. And I feel like the attitude that these same girls who have received once are now dishing it out onto Dina, and it's I understand that it's a bigger maybe violation because she's completely removed the hijab, whereas we've somewhat attempted. But I feel like she is genuinely attempting modesty, in her own way. So I think just to have patience with that and not, call her into question the way that we've been called into question, just out of empathy, like, and sympathy for our fellow sister who's kind of gone through the same thing as most of us have gone through.
Just to be clear, I don't think she said like the hijabi community is a cult. I think she said that they're becoming a cult. So we gotta like be clear. Like she's not saying that hijabis are crazy. Like she's saying like it's becoming in a way where I guess the hijabi community is trying to enforce how figures or hijabi figures should act or be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And would you say that's very problematic? Like, should we give the freedom for people to just do whatever they want or how they please? Because I was having this chat earlier with like Nabila and Rafael. Like, example, like Islamically, people don't necessarily become practicing out of their own kind of desire. They probably were enforced an aspect of Islam on them, and once they were forced into doing it, they realized the beauty of it. So Dina, how she mentions that, the hijab community is forcing me. I would have left, I didn't consider myself to be hijabi like 3 years ago. That sort of implies that if she had the choice of taking off hijab, she would have done it a long time ago. But it's the fact that she is a figure in the community, in the hijabi space, that she actually kept her hijab for all these years, right? So my take is that it's not necessarily a bad thing that I guess your fans are forcing you to wear the hijab, because at the end of the day, the hijab is obligatory from Islamic angle. It's not necessarily a bad thing that she's being forced to, because inshallah, like maybe through wearing it, that she'll realize the beauty of it more, if that makes sense. But honestly, your guys' take on that kind of angle.
Can I ask, so with the hijab, and I've tried to figure out whether it is just an obligatory action or whether there's spirituality attached to it, right? So, you know, there's obviously all this.
You mean like a meaning attached to it, like a hikmah attached to it, like why do, because everything is spiritual if it's like obligatory in that realm. But I think, you're trying to refer to like a wisdom behind why a woman should wear a hijab. I think
more like, because what Tanzim is saying, that because it's, you know, forced upon her by the community, therefore the action should be like, it's still good anyway. I want to like just understand, you know how like we always say, you know, if you're praying to show people, then your prayer is invalid, or, you know, your intentions are corrupt and yada, yada, yada. Does the same go for hijab? Because if you're, you know, if you're wearing it to not face the punishment of the dunya and the community and, you know.
Not fi sabilillah,
Is it enough? And is it okay?
Does that valid like
count as hijab?
Yeah, I have to agree with Nabila in that, because personally, like, I guess, you know, when you wear the hijab, the real intention is for Allah. So when we do it because my intention is for Instagram, like, if you think about it, like, does that even really count then? Because it might count in a way like, okay, well, she still has it on her head, but then, you know, it's like, I agree with Nabila in that sense. Like, is it considered like show off, or does that mess up? Because like, I know people who's done it for other people, and let's say they didn't turn out really well. Like, after a while, they did a complete 180, you know? So it's really hard to say. Yeah.
I want to also ask, what does it do to the psyche of a woman or anyone who's being forced into a practice? You know, whether it be, we've seen it in, you know, Islamic countries where women are, you know, forced by law to wear the hijab, and as soon as they get the chance, they rip it off. And, you know, I think Dina's relationship with hijab could quite possibly be even more damaged because of the pressure to put it on. And she mentions that in one of her vlogs, that it's the pressure of putting it on, you know, even if it's 3 a.m. at the corner store, which maybe not, you know, the best argument for taking it off, but it is like, you know, there's that pressure, and then there's obviously the pressure of the community. And if you're already struggling with something, you know, what does it really do for you to be, you know, like, I was depressed by hijab, and she mentions how taking, you know, in the West, or like, you know, nowadays Muslim women want to have that dialogue that it is my choice to wear the hijab, you know, but it's only a choice until you want to take it off, and then it's no longer a choice. So what does it say about the Muslim community in, you know, enforcing these sorts of, you know,
especially given, Monika, the point that we mentioned, that, you know, you're not wearing it for the right intentions anyway, and every action is according to intentions. And obviously there's limits and reason and points to that. But, you know, like the point of praying, if you pray 5 times a day for the sake of anything other than for the sake of Allah, because you want to please Allah and you want to fulfill the obligation of Allah, is it accepted? Like, what would you say in relation to that?
Wait, can you repeat the last part? Kind of broke off.
So like prayer being done for the sake of it, and then hijab being in the same kind of way, and what was the point that you wanted to mention again?
Like how the pressure sort of makes it even harder for you.
Yeah, the pressure being
like in Dina Tokio's position, where like just being under that scrutiny and that pressure, it sort of makes it like a little harder,
and it probably makes the hijab something less desirable to her as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I just feel like now that social media is a thing in today's age and time, I just feel like that's where all the pressure comes from. I've been off Instagram for almost a year, and I feel no pressure with the hijab anymore, like none. And I literally, like, I wear the hijab even better than when I wore it before. Like, before I used to just, you know, wear a headscarf and like cover all my hair. I never showed my hair, but, you know, sometimes I wear pants and everything. But now, majority of the time, I wear a abaya and everything like that. So I feel like the pressure really comes, especially just because at the same time, when you, on top of that, you're an influencer, oh my God, like none of us are prophets. So the fact that people idolize us in such a way that we can no longer make any mistake, like that is a huge pressure. And I can see someone being like, oh, I don't want to be part of this anymore, and just like leave. And so instead of me leaving the hijab, I just left social media because I'm still doing me, and I'm doing, like, I'm practicing and I'm trying my best to, because at the end of the day, like low key, I'm selfish. I'm trying to make it to Jannah, you know? When people sometimes get mad, oh, Monika, why are you off social media? Come back, we miss you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I never made social media for any of y'all. I did it for me, just for fun. I never even knew I could get famous or make impact until people started saying I made an impact. So, but then until when I started realizing that other negative comments and pressure started making impact on me, I was like, nah, I can easily stop that pressure and impact and go back to focusing on me and on my pace. But she wants to always remain on social media, and that just, it didn't help her, and she's still on it. And I feel like there's more to just the pressure for her. I feel like there's more things she's going through than just social media, you know?
I can definitely see how she's like pinned against the wall by like a surging tide of anger and frustration. And there are certainly elements like of the Muslim community, particularly, and this is the point I really want to get your thoughts on, about a lot of the kind of maliciousness is directed at women and not so much men. And Ali Dawa actually made a really, really, really brilliant video recently with my hijab, where he talked about, everyone's talking about Dina removing the physical hijab, whereas her husband Sid cracks like very, very lewd, raunchy jokes every like second line, and it's like no one mentions the fact that this guy is not maintaining his hijab, right?
No one sees it.
That's
no one's gonna call it out. There's not people in the comment section like absolutely fuming, like just seething that Sid has done this, and telling him like, why are you even like calling yourself, you know, a Muslim person? Like, how can you call, because he called himself a practicing Muslim in the same video. People aren't out here saying like, how can you dare call yourself a practicing Muslim and speak like this? So I wonder, do you think that there's kind of a imbalance, especially in the kind of popular culture, Muslim popular culture, between the way women are called out and between the way men are called out?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Because like I didn't even watch the full podcast when it first came out, and my sister watched it, and she comes to me, she's like, "Did you watch it?" I was like, "No, I couldn't." Like I was feeling so sad just by looking like the first 20 seconds, just looking at Dina's face. I just couldn't look at her. I was like, oh my God, I could see the depression in her. I felt so much empathy for her. And so I just didn't watch it. And so my sister's like, well, I watched the full thing. Like, did you hear what Sid said? I was like, no. And then she said some stuff that he said. I was like, what? Like, I never, like, one thing, maybe Dina might not wear the hijab, but she's definitely wearing hijab in the heart. I'll tell you that, you know? And, I respect Dina for like kind of putting him in his place. Like, no, we're not doing that. Like, she knows her audience. Some of them are young. And even then, like, even if she's not physically looking, even modest or in hijab or whatever, she's still like trying to uphold that modest in the sense of the content she creates. So I respected that. But yeah, when it came to Sid, I can see both sides. So I think of both sides. So one side, I would say it was very immodest, the stuff he said. And I get it. Like, you guys are husband and wife. You guys can say that in private, but in public, I don't think that's exactly appropriate. And on the other side, I can almost relate to him because I have his personality, but I would do those jokes I would do with my girlfriends, but not with guys or in public, or you know what I mean? Like, there should be a balance. I know that he was trying to be very like lighten up the situation with humor, but his humor wasn't appropriate, you know? And people kind of just like, oh, whatever, Sid, we're not here for you. We're here for Dina. So like they just kind of focus on Dina's modesty, not Sid's, you know?
I think in regards to, in particular, just to take a different perspective, because if you actually like, I watched Sid and Dina's videos like here and there in the past, so I have a rough idea about what they're about. And I think when you had them two both on camera, Sid would portray himself as he's not meant to be the role model figure in the community. So I think that's why he doesn't get the criticism, because he set the bar pretty low, whereas I think Dina set the bar pretty high because, you know, she's modest, hijabi, eloquent in how she talks, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the reason why Sid gets, you know, goes under the radar a bit, because he's always been that guy who just, you know, speaks, you know, he cusses on, you know, camera, this and that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, you know, he flew under the radar. But I'd like to get your point, because you make a good point that, yes, he shouldn't be saying that, but because he does say it, so it's like whatever. So at the same time, it does affect like the youth, because, you know, Dina obviously set herself bar pretty high, and taking off the hijab adds that effect to others. You know what I mean? So
do you feel like this is part of a wider like phenomenon of like where guys can get away with quite a lot of things that girls can't? Like, as in, do you see like how it plays into like wider cultural assumptions?
Yeah, and Tanzim, I wouldn't just draw on the idea of Sid in this case, because I mean, the point you make about Sid not fashioning himself as a role model, you could argue that Dina didn't actually fashion herself as a Muslim role model either. She was just a woman trying to live her life and trying to find a balance, and a lot of people related to that. So they ascribed this, you could argue, they ascribed this position to her. She didn't actually, she wasn't self-declared. The other thing too, Tanzim, is you have to bear in mind the fact that there are a lot of male YouTubers out there who do portray themselves as role models for the community, who are guilty of similar kind of violations of you know, proper Islamic adab. And, you know, we'll probably talk about them, the Muslim YouTube scene, a bit later, but they're laden with these kinds of individuals who do have the similar status to Dina. But would you say that, like, even then, like, you wouldn't say that the same kind of malice and the same kind of anger is directed at them as it is at Dina?
I think that with, like, a lot of these things, we can't really, like Raf said, we shouldn't be excusing anyone's. If we're not going to excuse Dina, we really shouldn't excuse Sid. He's on the same platform. He's, you know, he's aiding the same, you know, if we're going to say, like, influence and all of that stuff. But with, I think what it really does show is, like, the lack of knowledge that the Muslim community really have. They really, you know, they don't understand that there is an inner hijab. If there were no comments on that, you know, then I think that there's, like, knowledge that's being lost here. Another thing is, you know, we can say that it's because Dina has more influence. It's because Dina fashioned herself as an influencer or whatever. But do we not all have some level of influence, whether it's on Instagram or in our personal lives? And if we're all asked to leave what is, you know, we're putting this on Dina, who's not a prophet, who's not even a religious figure in terms of, like, she's not in the dawah scene, she's not in any of that. If we expect her to be, you know, just only portray the good, you know, for the sake of her followers, only portray the good, but excuse, you know, Sid, or excuse ourselves. Like, we've been so harsh on others, yet so soft on ourselves. And we have influence. I have influence on my sister. I have influence on, you know, my Instagram. But even without Instagram, you know, there are always going to be people that look up to you. There are always going to be people you have an influence over. And are we not, you know, expected to do the same? And, you know, I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of, she's an influencer, she is on this pedestal, you know.
I don't know, how would you feel about that, Monika, like people ascribing that kind of influence to you? I mean, you know, you've done a lot of videos about dawah, and a lot of them are really, 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 like, important, and, like, you've integrated humor and dawah in a way that's relatable to young people, and I think that's such an important pursuit, especially given the current, you know, kind of state. And
Definitely.
I just wonder, how would you feel about people ascribing this religious, you know, like, scholarly status to you? Authority.
Yeah. Well, personally, I get really scared because, like, initially when I made YouTube, it was literally because, so as someone who was not, like, I'll be straight up honest, when I wasn't religious at all, I found anytime my parents took me to an Islamic lecture, I was so bored to death, I would fall asleep. Like, I don't even know what Islam was, like, what is religion, what is culture, what's the difference? I just didn't know. So when I was interested in the hijab, I would look up, like, Islamic lectures, and I would search up things to, you know, give me knowledge, you know, and I was just so bored and I was tired. I was like, why is it all men only doing it? Where are the women? And so I got tired of it. I'm like, why can't I be one of them? But it was just literally just to, hey, there's a woman talking about Islam. Hey, I'm a woman too. Let me talk about Islam. Because I was low-key kind of like tired, like, hey, all women are putting out there is the beauty. Like, that's great. We can all look good. But there's more to us than that, you know? So I just kind of got tired. And that was literally just the purpose. Like, hey, guys, did you know this knowledge? Or did you know if you just get, like if you smile, like it's a sunnah, like just small things like that. I just felt like it just had to be put out there just so people knew, and then so other people can also create like their own content about Islam or other things or whatever they want to talk about. And so when people look at me as someone that would make an impact, it is scary because I was like, whoa, like I didn't do it for that reason. My intention wasn't to get fame or any influence to other people. It was just literally just, hey, as a woman, we can talk about this too. It's not just men. And on top of that, I wanted it to be fun and relatable because I used to watch Baba Ali. I don't know if you guys know him on YouTube. But he used to make me laugh, and I was like, wow, he makes me so interested in Islam. And that really inspired me. I'm like, hey, like, I think I'm kind of funny. Let me make a video. So I would just make a video. And, obviously my siblings would be like, oh, Monika, you're too extra. I'm like, but seriously, like you can add humor. And on top of that, like educate people about Islam. And a lot of people would be like, oh, your videos are so clickbait. And I'm like, well, honey, I created clickbait because like back in the day, back in 2010, one of the biggest video was I hate the hijab. And it was, the purpose of it was because I wanted to get ignorant people who didn't like Muslims, who didn't know nothing about Islam, to come and watch it and see how much we do love Islam and how much the hijab does mean to us and what Islam is really about. And so with that intention, it was just literally for the ignorant people. It wasn't to influence people in any way. I didn't even know that was possible. So when people say that to me, I do get scared, and I keep reminding them, like, please don't look up to me. I can make a bunch of faults, and sometimes my ego might get in the way and I might defend something that is wrong. But all I want you guys to do is my videos are just a reminder of how beautiful religion is, and to please look up to the Prophet. That's literally it.
Yeah, Monika, do you see based on our previous discussion just then, do you see the differences in the cultural assumptions that like men are given as opposed to women when portraying themselves? Like we were saying about the inner modesty and the like fixation on Dina's outer hijab as opposed
Do you mean it's in Western culture, Islamic culture, or Bengali culture?
Oh, as in just how say I'm talking about just generally like Islamically how Sid gets away with things. Do you see that in your own community in America, like in a general sense, like how?
Oh yeah, all the time, and it's like, like I'm trying to think, but it's like I have so much to say about it, where I can't even think of one situation because there's so many where I've seen literally men get away with things that this, like if a woman did the same thing, like she'd be like, I'm just gonna speak very generally, but I know someone who like just. I had a friend, and she did something bad, and when she did that bad thing, like everyone was looking at her because it was obvious, because she ended up pregnant before marriage and everything like that, and they didn't even look at the guy at all. Like, oh, how dare you do that? No, it's just the girl. How dare you do that? And it's like sad. I'm like, it takes two. So yeah, I definitely see a double standard, which I do not approve of or like.
Is it something you've come across in your sort of like YouTube like journey as well, or just being on social media? How people like point the finger at you and your practices, sort of thing?
Wait, repeat the last bit again.
Or just is that something you've encountered, like experienced, for, like being on YouTube and social media with your channel and everything? How people like try to shoot you down in what you're trying to do?
Oh yeah. Like if me and another brother, if he was to do Islamic video and I did Islamic video, they can go down 20 billion things of what I've done wrong with just my appearance alone, And with a guy, they'd be like, mashallah, brother, good job. I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, bruh, I said the same thing. Like, but no, none of that message even mattered. It's how I'm dressed. And that makes all my points invalid because of the way I'm dressed. So yeah, I've seen that many times.
It takes those dawah brothers to have a secret niqab before they're even criticized. But it takes women just to wear the hijab a little bit wrong or wear a little bit of makeup for all their information.
Yep.
it's very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, no,
Very much.
I wanted to kind of lead that on to an idea about what kind of responsibility do we have as like, or you have, do you feel as like a Muslim role model in the community? And in general, like the thing I'm alluding to is the sense that we have people in the Muslim community like Adam Saleh, YouTuber. We have Fuzi Tube as well, and even to some extent, like Zayn Malik. And I wanted to raise this point because we're always talking about, Dina Tokio called the hijabis a cult, or says that the hijabis are becoming a cult. But it's like, what kind of ummah are we at the moment that we ascribe such religious significance to? Like one of the greatest, if you lived in this age, one of the greatest warriors of Islam would be Khabib, the MMA fighter, and Zayn.
Hey, don't diss Khabib, bro.
I'm not dissing Khabib. I'm a huge fan of Khabib, but the man bludgeons people in the face for a job
with his outer exposed on that topic
in front of naked women. I mean, it's a point. It's just a point that I'm going to make. I mean, we ascribe him like almost like the status of a ghazi, like a warrior of Islam. And then, you have people like Zayn Malik who wishes everyone Eid Mubarak, and the community, like the Muslims go crazy. Yeah. They're like,
broke up with Gigi Hadid on Ramadan. That's it. Good Muslim.
Yeah, exactly. And so I suppose what kind of responsibility do we all have, especially people with public platforms? What does a Muslim have to kind of do? Like, because we are living in a strange time where, we don't have Imam al-Ghazali anymore. We don't have Salahuddin alayhi. We don't have the Sahabi and the Sahabiyat like Aisha radiallahu anha to look up to him. So what is the modern aim of every Muslim, especially those who have a platform, do you think?
Well, I can really speak for myself only. So whenever I make YouTube videos, I just remind myself, like, sometimes I'll even pray a little bit before, and I'm like, just clear my head, because there are times, we can all be biased in a way when we post things up, and, might be like, oh, this is okay, when it's really not. So whenever I post anything up, I remember I am, in a way, I have to be a little bit responsible. Sometimes I'm very blunt and like too honest. And even my sister like, calm it down a little bit, Monika. So I was like, okay, that's true. And so like, I try to think twice before I post anything up, because I know that it's going to impact someone, even if I don't intend for that to. I know it's going to. So even for like the brothers, and it's sad though, but it's like you'll see Muslim YouTubers, they're guys, and they're not even trying. Well, they start off with Islamic content, and then they out of nowhere leave Islam, and then not saying the religion, but just the content, and they just go to the complete opposite direction and lead that young audience to that direction. And like, I've met some of them, and let's just say some of the things that they post, they don't like Islamically, they would not do it in real life. And so I think it's just sad, because I believe that if you're going to preach something, I also believe we're also humans. And, just because we're YouTubers or have influence, we don't need to deal with, the day of judgment. No, we all do. So I always remind myself, like, okay, before I preach this, and like, because I have the responsibility to, now that I do have a platform, but to also remind myself to follow it, because a lot of people, I think a lot of influencers, they don't even think about that. They just think about the money, what they're going to gain from this, the popularity and this and that, whatever. But sometimes they don't think about the responsibility, and you kind of get carried away with it. So yeah, I mean, that's what I could think of.
I wanted to kind of add on what you said, because in regards to how we should act or treat, people in the community, like just to take Fuzi Tube, for example, right? Early on, like his first videos were all about like Islam, like how to pray during Ramadan, and all this like kind of funny videos. And I guess once you see that type of videos go viral on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and Muslims see it, they're like, oh wow, there's a guy who's like, getting 1 million views, and at the same time talking about the religion in a lighthearted way. This is good. I like it. I enjoy it, right? And then you know, 2 years later, he's like getting drunk, alcohol, and he's like, I don't know, chasing Drake in the club or whatever, right? It's like, what in the world like happened? Like, what my problem is that I think the audience isn't aware, so they just got to be aware that the guy might not be who we think he is, because Foo's YouTube later revealed that people think from his online presence is that he was like practicing and then he became like non-Muslim and he became Muslim because he took Shahada recently or whatever, right? So they think that he had a growth, but then he revealed that he was always the same. He was still drinking while he was making those Muslim videos. Like, he literally said that in a video. I'm like, what in the hell? That means that he's actually exploiting the Muslim community to kind of make himself a platform so he can kind of do whatever he wants and earn a lot of money, right? So I think as a community, we got to be aware. And just to be, to focus on Adam Saleh, because I watched a lot of the videos I used to in the past when I had like, when I didn't have a life really, to be honest. I'm joking, but like when, you know, like, because they went a bit wayward, so I'm like, oh, they're not my role model anymore. But with Adam Saleh in particular, I still feel that he has like Islamic heart, like a lot of, I don't know, how he talks about, you know, the religion and stuff. I think there is passion for the religion in his heart, truly, but because I think he had like a catapult of a rise. Like, he was kind of with Sheikh Akbar doing videos, and then they had a bust up, and then he went solo, and then he's doing tours and he's getting a lot of money. And within that, like, he fell into music videos, and you probably know yourself, Monika, he made that raunchy, to say the least. Not raunchy, but a bit controversial. Not halal, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Kind of videos. So, like, you know, money is a fitna as well, right? So I think as a community, we just got to be aware.
Yep.
Because even Adam Saleh fans, they're like, what is he doing? Why is he doing this now? So it's sad how we have to not pin our hopes on particular kind of role models, and kind of, I guess, be aware that they may be they may let us down, essentially.
Yeah, and like, here's a little secret, but there's like, I've made videos. There's this one point in my life I made videos about Islam and hijab, and no one even knew that I was actually struggling and even believing in a God at that time. And because I was going through so much depression at that time in my life, and I was just questioning, like, does God even exist? Like, I would legitimately say I was like maybe almost an atheist, and I was like, but I've still made videos about Islam because I didn't make money off of any of that, but it's just something in me. I was like, no, like, there's goodness in this, and like, I would just like debate back and forth, and no one even knew about this. And so for me, it took a lot of dua, even though I didn't believe in a God at that time, to keep praying. And then something in me, like, one day I was just like, I need to see something that proves to me that God exists. And this is like the weirdest, dumbest thing. But so I randomly like open the Quran, and I come to a verse talks about how the wind being created. And I'm like, the wind? Wow, I've never really thought about the wind, but it exists. And without the wind, you know, like, wait, how's the wind created? And without the wind, you know, there wouldn't be pollination. And like, I was thinking about all this intricate details. I'm like, wow, like, there has to be a God. And obviously, like, I did make a video about my atheism situation before, but I removed it. But I wasn't sure if people were gonna relate to it or not. But yeah, but I can relate to that situation where, you know, when we talk about like, oh, just don't believe everything you see on YouTube, because it's true. Like, we all struggle. We're all humans. Like, we're dealing with our own fitnas of money and fame and depression, anxiety. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would definitely say I always say this to everybody, like when they talk about, oh, I love this YouTuber, that YouTuber, whenever someone comes to me, because I've met a lot of them like other YouTubers, and I'm like, just don't believe everything you see. That's all I'm going to say. And don't think that just because they post it on YouTube that's exactly what they believe or that they practice that. And people are like shocked, like, what? No, you're crazy, Monika. But I'm like, seriously, you don't know, you know?
So who do you feel, because this becomes an issue of, you know, guessing essentially, like, I guess in this day and age, you know, where, you know, social media is very accessible, all that sort of stuff, that naturally, you know, let's just take a case study. You know, there's probably a Muslim who is not proud of his religion because of all the media attention he gets, but then he comes across a video like an influencer like yourself, and, you know, it gets inspired, but then they're like, how do I know this is, you know, the right person who I can kind of rely on when it comes to the deen? So what sort of advice would you give there?
Well, I always tell people stop looking at other people because you're always gonna, because if you're gonna just follow that person, you're gonna go up and down with that person as well. And you're gonna think, oh, they took their hijab off, I gotta take it off. No, have a brain of your own. Don't be brainless robot where you gotta think about, oh, like this is my inspiration. This person's gonna lead me to Jannah. No, they're not, because they could take you straight to hell and you wouldn't even know. And even in Islam, it says the top 3 people that's first gonna be even sent to hell are going to be imams and leaders and stuff, because people would follow them blindly, So I always tell people, YouTubers, okay, come on, we're not sheikhs or whatever. Like, just look at the Prophet and do your own research. Don't just blindly follow anybody you see online just because they have a following. It doesn't mean they're legitimate,
Yeah, I think what you're mentioning is the hadith which is noted about the first 3 people to enter Jahannam will be the Quran reciter who recited Quran so people could say his voice was beautiful, the mujahid, the soldier of Islam who fought so people could acknowledge his bravery, and the scholar who became a scholar so people could admire his knowledge. And it just really hits home on basically everything we've been talking about. It's like, if your intentions in going into these fields aren't clear, then you're really not going to have any kind of fruit from it in this world or the next. And on the point of like private and public like sin, the Khulafa, caliphs of Islam, used to publicly, not the Rashidun Khulafa, of course, but certain Khulafa of the Ottomans, the Abbasids, and even to some extent the Umayyad, would commit sins. Like the caliph, the leader, the political leader of Islam, would openly sin. And they were still the caliphs of Islam, and Islam didn't fall apart because of it. You are only responsible for yourself. And you will answer for what you did. You won't be able to say, oh, I did it because I followed this individual. You are incumbent. And if it happened with the caliphs, it's going to happen today. And just the point that I said, where we're living in a world today where we don't have, we do have Islamic role models in the community, but there's something up with this particular community where the meaning has been particularly, and the authority has been particularly ascribed to some very shady characters, to say the least. So that's certainly the kind of status we're in now. I just want to segue into a different point, and it's something that Nabila and I discussed extensively recently. And there was an article, I don't know if you saw it, the Mona Haydar talking about wearing a bikini.
Yes.
Can I get your thoughts on that?
Can I get what?
Can I get your thoughts on that? Like, what kind of?
Let's touch up on what she wrote about. For
the basically, well, Nabila is more familiar with it than I am.
What's it about? I haven't.
So she came out and she posted a photo in a beanie and a high collared shirt, no makeup, just a modified hijab. And she said that, and this is the first thing that raised a lot of eyebrows and outrage, was she called it. She doesn't wear the traditional Arab hijab, and I think the problem was with Arab. We'll unpack that later. And then she went on to also talk about how she wears the hijab this way for to avoid America is a racist place. It's Islamophobic, and she wants to be safe in her workplace. I have my views on that, and I don't think initially I didn't have a problem with it, but I have my reasons for it. But I'd like to hear what you have to say, Monika.
Okay. Well, do you want my opinion only on that, or everything? Because for me, it's okay, her music video comes off wrap my hijab. I'm like, okay, girl, wrap the hijab. You know what I'm saying? But and now it's wrapping that beanie on my head, and I'm like, what's going on? Okay. So for me, okay, one of the things I just want to say before I even mention it is I'm so tired of everyone trying to be famous. And it's they want that fame for that moment, and then quickly they want to go back and retract and be well, this is how I really am, because it's what? So when it came to her situation, first she mentioned I don't wear the hijab in the Arab culture way, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Because because if you go into the Quran and everything, and I've noticed a lot. Okay, so in America, I don't know if it has hit Australia yet, but in America, there's this thing called progressive Muslims, and I'm sorry, but it's
the funniest thing.
They're like a meme in the Australian community.
We always talk about that as well, where it's just Like, we've never had that.
Yeah, because there's all these Muslims in America who are like so angry and serious, and we're like, yo, what are the progressives like in your country to make you so angry about this? Because like they're like so scared. They keep banging up this thing about progressive Muslims. I'm like, what are you even talking about, man? Like we have some.
Yeah, progressive Muslims. Okay, so the way I know more about these people is because I had a friend whose friend ended up like taking off hijab and then going into progressive Muslim, and she told my friend what they talk about, and literally they talk about how, you know, fornication before marriage is halal. You don't have to wear the hijab. A woman can pray in front of men. Homosexuality is halal. Like everything, right? And yeah. It's really sad, and this is what they think is a progression, you know? It's literally become like, it's literally like kind of like Christianity, how like they're kind of like changing to today's time. And like I've literally heard people like, why would you not want to bring Islam in the 21st century? I'm like, bro, like Islam is supposed to be like universal, a thing that like in with time is able to adjust, but not like changing the rules, you know? So she quoted that person, this Dr. Umar Farouk or something like that. And I know something like that. Yeah, he is a progressive Muslim as well. And so she reads
Dr. Umar Farouk Abdullah.
Something like that, yeah. Because I'm not sure if it's him, because I've seen a Dr. Umar Farouk in a progressive Muslim like article, and I'm like, what is this? I'm not sure if it's the same because a lot of people have similar names. But she says she read like a book with that name. So I was like, wait, so does she not believe in progressive Muslim because progressive Islam, whatever? Because that's what they believe. And she even said, according to that book, a beanie is a hijab. And I'm like, what is she talking about? That's not hijab. Like, there's more to it, you know? And she said it's an Arab thing. And, you know, obviously when we go to like the Quran, like the Arabs, how they actually wore it was just covering their head. They wouldn't cover their neck, their ears, their chest, nothing. And it was until the Quran came and, you know, the Prophet and like they mentioned like, you know, so a lot of people say, oh, the word hijab isn't, you know, in the Quran, but the word khimar is in the Quran, and that's literally just a description of just covering the head. And so the Quran describes how to put it on your body, you know? It tells you, so while you're covering your head, cover your neck, your ear, your bosom, everything, and like also modesty and character and behavior and everything. And so, you know, people, they want to like change everything around for their benefit, and then like, she also mentioned like the fear and everything like that. I remember seeing someone else's refute to that because they know where she lives, and they were like, what are you talking about? You live in a very diverse Muslim populated place, so I don't know what fear you're talking about. So I was like, oh man, like, because I can see some people, there are people out there who do just want to make an excuse just to wear what they want to wear, and not just accept like, hey, I just want to wear it. Like there's no reason, you know. I've had friends who literally took their hijab off, and one thing I respected about them, they said, I have no reason, I just took it off. And I'm like, I respect you, you know. So there's sometimes people want to make that excuse, like, I'm so fearful, and it's like, you know, maybe she has been through something. I've been through something. I live in a Muslim populated area too, and I've had some you know, white people coming through and like calling me a terrorist and telling me I have bombs, and I'm like, then run away if I'm a terrorist. You know, I'm not going to attack you, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's like she first came very pridefully about the hijab, and now she's gone to like, you know, I'm gonna stick to the beanie, not really the hijab. So in that aspect, I was like, eh. And then on top of that, you know, we talk about women in color. They can't take off their skin and wear a different like foundation or something. Like they can't do that, you know? So it's like, I guess in a way, you know, when she's playing the victim in a way, it's like everyone was like, what are you scared for, you know?
I liked your point about how in American society, like, if they're not doing something right, they feel the need to justify it with this whole progressive. Whereas
let's not call them progressives, by the way. There's nothing really progressive about what they're doing. Let's call them regressive.
But in Australia, it's like most of my friends, people I know, like if they're not doing something right, they're not going to make excuses. It's like probably going through something, or they're just not at that level yet, and you accept it and you respect it in a way. Respect in the sense
you respect the person. You may not respect the action or the choice,
that they're able
but
to get better.
You maintain your respect and your correct kind of
because
attitude.
It's like you respect them that they're not worshipping the desires, like they're not trying to justify it legit. Like, at least
Exactly.
the fact that they say, oh, look, I took it off because, I have no reason. It shows that they know where they need to be naturally, and they're working towards it, and they know where they are. If that, like, we're not going to judge people on levels, but I'm saying they know they have to work towards a certain level, right? Whereas whoever, some whack is like, Islam has to be X, Y, Z. It's like, dude, like, who are you?
You're changing the religion. You're not just like, because that person who, for example, they might be weak, yeah, and this is something that Al-Ghazali mentions. It's very important. Someone might be weak, and you might pass that person being like, oh, this individual, look at them, look at how they're dressed, etc., etc. But if that person knows that what Islam expects of them, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from them, and they're working on that as a part of their life, you never know. What if before they die, they genuinely decide that they're going to become a practicing Muslim, and before you die, you let go of some aspects. All of a sudden, the person who you passed and judged is now in a higher state in front of Allah than you are, right?
Yeah.
The person who you passed and saw in an outward state that was negative is now has changed, and you do that. But what happens is when you change the religion to suit your desires, you kind of take away that avenue for redemption. You know what I mean?
So the conversations move to when you change the religion, because we've talked on, but what I'm trying to see is, did Mona Hayder really change the religion? She modified the hijab, and she's not wearing the hijab in any less modest way than she was when she wore the wrap my hijab style with makeup on, or maybe her neck showing. So why is it that, and this is where I disagree with everyone, a little bit, that the traditional Arab hijab that she used.
Not the Arab hijab, but let me like try and like break this down, because Nabila and I have spoken about it a lot, but it's more like, it doesn't mention in the Quran you have to wear a cap a certain way, pin your hijab a certain way, and then wrap it around your neck a certain way. You know that the awrah of a woman is everything but her face and her hands, and according to some, her feet. But face and her hands are that. But the way you cover that, and obviously it can't be form-fitting as well. That's another requirement.
It can't be transparent. It can't be form-fitting.
If a woman wears desi clothes, or if a woman wears Western clothes, like, I think that's the point Nabila's trying to make, right?
So what I'm trying to say, we've just jumped on this because to us it looks foreign. But if we look in every culture, there is a different way hijab is practiced. In certain African cultures, you have this like upwards turban that they wear, and that's their cultural way they wear it, and it's still hijab. Mm-hmm. And as long as every other rules are ticked off, why is it that this uniform that we've accepted as hijab is the only hijab? And I want to bring back a point that we mentioned in the beginning about Bengali culture, and I kind of I hear a lot of the dialogue of like, my cultural clothing isn't modest enough, or my I wear the abaya, and I don't like. I think
abaya instead of like desi clothes.
Instead of desi clothes. And so the thing that I like, I understand the criticism that why is she calling it the Arab hijab when, all different cultures wear it. But I mean, you wear the abaya, and that is an Arab thing, just because a different culture wears it. But yes, the hijab itself is not an Arab thing. It's a Muslim thing. But I really want to, I think it's the two arguments of the same argument, really, that, there is an Arabization of Islam. And there is this idea that a lot of, maybe like bias specific to Desi communities, because that's what I have the most like access to, I guess. They have this attitude that I can't wear my salwar kameez. It's not as modest as an abaya. If your argument is, it's more adorned, or if it's, it's just as loose, and I've worn the sari with a longer blouse, and I've worn all these things, and you can modify it, just like you modify Western.
You can cover your neck, you can still cover your aura, you can still not be form-fitted, in a nice flowing salwar kameez. But there are literally girls, sisters that we know, who will go to like desi parties, and wear like a full abaya or a different kind of abaya, as opposed to just wearing desi clothes that could be modest, to make a point of it. So I guess that's
I think that's it. And I feel like that like we've kind of, I know people don't like, blaming everything on Arab superiority, but we've internalized somewhat of that. And we feel like Arab culture is the closest to Islam. And, just, I don't know how much of that is true. They have, parts of their culture, and, because we like to say Bengali culture is judgmental. I'm pretty sure that, if you get a group of Arab women together, they're just as judgmental. We can't make these as, blanket statements about race and then complain about the West being racist towards us and all of this. But I really want to, understand. Like, I think that, it's possible that the way we wear our hijab, the way that we've accepted as hijab is, like part of the modest fashion industry, making it popular to wear it a certain way, which might possibly be run, by mostly Arabs. And, if you go to Saudi Arabia, they kind of wear it the way we wear it, where we wear this chiffon hijab and we wrap it around our neck. And we're so quick to judge any woman who wears it in their cultural way, or in their, when they're just like, ticking off.
Maybe not Saudi Arabia, but like Dubai and
Dubai, sorry. Yeah. Not Saudi Arabia, it's like niqab. But no, so I think that's definitely something that we really need to think about as, non-Arab Muslims, that are we shedding our culture? Yeah, of course, shed the parts that are not compliant with Islam, but, I don't think there's any problem in having, like, I'm not a nationalist, but cultural pride in your culture, so long as it doesn't
pride in your culture and the aspects of your culture that don't contradict Sharia. Whereas there are definitely people, I don't know, maybe you haven't seen this. I want to know what you think. Do you think that there are people in the Desi community and other communities as well who are actually shedding parts of their culture for Arab culture that don't originally contradict the Sharia?
Wait, say that again? Wait.
So the parts of Islam, there are certainly parts of like Bengali culture and aspects of Bengali culture we would say are haram, yeah?
Yeah.
But the kind of question I was asking is, do you think that there are people who throw away parts of their Desi culture in the Muslim community, that parts of the Desi culture that aren't originally haram to start with, just so that they can fulfill some idea of becoming, more Arab?
Yeah, I mean, I can see some doing that for sure. I mean, going back to what Nabila was saying, I definitely agree in that sense. Like, me personally, I see like, okay, if everything is covered according to what Islam says, I don't care what dress you wear, For me, I just personally wearing a abaya because I'm a lazy dresser and you just wear it on top, that's it, Whereas salwar kameez takes so much more effort, So when it comes to that, personally, it's like, okay, if she wants to wear a beanie, but if it covers her neck, if she covering all that stuff, okay, cool. Like, that's how I see it. But, as long as Islamically, I agree. Islamically, as long as that part is covered, I think it should be okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, like the reason we actually have Nabila on and you as well is because you also a videographer, photographer. Nabila is in the modest fashion industry. I myself have like a small business that I run. So I wanted to get your thoughts in regards to being Muslim. I'll actually start with Nabila first because since we're on the topic of hijab, because she deals with the hijab community directly. What's the experiences being like Muslim and in the hijab scene or in the modest clothing scene for you?
So if we're talking specifically about the modest scene, there's different categories. So I work with like labels like Boutique Nur Huda, which is a genuinely like they sell abayas and hijab, and it's just to get all your modest needs. They've also jumped on the modest fashion train because that's how you're going to sell your product now. And then we've got what we associate modest fashion with is these bloggers who I'm not a blogger, but I kind of fall in similar category where I don't think we can all agree that our hijab isn't perfect, but what space the modest fashion industry I think initially brought on, especially for me, who was still was a huge Dina Tokio fan, was because I struggled with the hijab. Once I got into I put it on when I was 5, so there was a long time of you're a kid, you don't really know, but you love it because Allah told you to wear it, and then you get to your teen years where you want to be fashionable, but the models don't wear hijab, so maybe you can't be fashionable and all of this. And then we started being represented by these models. And I think it's more a space for women who already struggle with the hijab rather than coming, and I think it's possible that you can come in and then later take it off because that's the fashion. But I think it is a space for women who already struggle with the hijab, who need, something to spice it up a bit or, help you practice it on the day-to-day. And then you move on, and then maybe you take it off because, it just wasn't enough. But there's that space. And I think that the modest fashion industry, as I said, it started off as a positive, and then it became a competition of who can be the most beautiful or who can, wear the most trendy, fashionable clothing. But on that point, it also became a business. It became a business for individuals who were getting sponsored. It became a business for these stores who were, are now jumping on the modest fashion, using their bloggers to promote their stuff. So other than that, other than that, maybe criticizing the genuine modesty of the fashion industry, the modest fashion industry specifically, obviously, I want to actually shed some light on, how are these businesses really run? And are these Muslim business owners, as on the haq as they should be? We keep calling into question the way that the women are dressed, but, I've worked and the ones that I work with now, alhamdulillah, they're very, they're good. They tick off all the boxes in terms of running an ethical and moral business. But I have worked with some not for very long, who haven't run their business the best way. I've seen a lot of manipulation, a lot of just underpaying their workers. Exploitation. They've really, and I think that's something that we really need to work on as a community.
Would you say that they've lied to customers and they've
lied to their customers? And there's I can bring back the point of Arabization. They really do only want Arab, either workers or models, and that's changing now. But I think that that's largely due to a lot of criticism that they've received. But there's so much racism in the modest community. There's so much malpractice in their businesses, and I want to get your
Yeah, that's terrible for a Muslim business that claims to sell Islamic merchandise, and a lot of these businesses actually fashion themselves on very Islamic names, Quranic names, and so on and so forth, and then they go on to lie to customers and stuff like that. I don't know, guys. It's such a horrible.
And there's this obsession with outer modesty again. There are certain brands that I work with, but that I think run their businesses amazingly. They actually provide basic modest clothing that's still fashionable, and but they may not look like the most modest woman. They have a certain level of makeup on, or their clothes are form fitting, but they're genuinely good people who are running their business really well. And then
not just good people, but good in their Islamic sense in terms of their and their muamalat, so their transactions and their business dealings as well. They're actually managing it properly, and they're not lying and misleading customers. And
then we've got our sisters in Arabia who are running these amazing businesses, but they have this I'm superior to that brand because I wear more modest clothing. We sell more modest things, but in their practices and their actions, they're not really
their business actions.
Their business actions, of course. They're not really and I think that's something that I found difficult to navigate in terms of it is my side job, so I do have to work. I do work there, but it's also trying to figure out which stores I can work with because I ethically and morally agree with their business practices, and also rather other than just how modest is their clothing. And so
have you had these experiences, or have you seen this sort of practice in the States, Monika, like a discrimination sort of how Muslim brands want to use hijabi models, or not just that, in whatever it may be.
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to Nabila. Okay, wait, ask your question again.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying, have you encountered this in America at all? Like in the States, like a discrimination in how Muslim businesses use
or even in your business, Monika, because you said you run photography and stuff. So have you had these
yes, so many times. First, it's one side where if you're trying to people like your work until they got to pay for it. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to Muslims, I get it. I'm busy. We all trying to be cheap and stuff, but it's but you got to think about the person that's working hard. If you want to support another Muslim, support their business, you got to pay them fairly. And I know people who will be oh, I'm going to pay you so much less. But they will never question a white person asking, because white person, they don't bargain. They're like, this is America. This is how we are. And they won't even question it. They'll be like, okay, fine, here, you know, I couldn't find any coupons, but okay, here's the full price. But when it comes to Muslims, all of a sudden, please, sister, for the sake of Allah, will you please give me this? I was like, wow, you're going to bring Allah into this? And then you make me feel so guilty. And then I've even had other experiences where, like, you know, okay, so I'm a YouTuber, and on top of that, I do video and photography. So then I would have people who for me, I don't really keep it very professional with my business partners or whoever that works with me. I literally become like super like best friends with them, you know? And sometimes like as an empath, like I feel like I let people walk over me. So they'll be like, oh, can you put it on your YouTube and Instagram? Sure. Can you take free photos? Sure. Can you do free videos? Sure. And like for 2 years straight, I did everything for free, and I got used so badly, and I had to drop that person. And like, so I can completely relate to Nabila, because I've seen people wearing full on baya and hijab and talking about Islam and verses and, you know, this and that. I want to help the world, and then like misuse and like manipulate and lie to people that are actually helping them succeed to that. Because for me, when I try to help, or I'm helping or working with other Muslims, I see why they're doing what they're doing, because I get, as Muslims, our generation even, we don't even look into, let me become a lawyer or a engineer. We're looking at starting our own business and being creative. And so when I see someone saying, yeah, my parents don't believe in me, I feel them right there, because my parents didn't believe in me either, being a photographer and videographer. They're like, oh, that's not in demand. You're not going to make any money off of that. So when I see one, I'm like, let me help you, because no one helped me, you know? And then like, it's just like Nabila, like, yeah, I've seen people do like all that and think they're better than others because they're so modest and stuff like that, even though I know they're the stuff that they do undercover. And I'm like, please don't have arrogance. And like, they will show off when they use that money to donate. And like, it's just so complicated. And so like, I there's only one business that I truly work with, and it's called Verona Collections. Nabila, if you've not heard of it, like, trust me, it's so amazing. But like Verona Collection, so the woman that works it, she's a white convert to Islam. And so whenever we do business, and like, she pays me everything so fairly, she gives me more than I even deserve. And I tell her, like, her name is Lisa, and I'm like, Lisa, thank you for being white, because I think you pay me fairly because you're white. And she's like, no. And she's like, you know, it's about being a good Muslim. I'm like, true. But like, you know, it's just like, I feel like it really starts with the character, you know, because people can convert to Islam. I've seen people who were like the worst of the worst, and then as soon as they turn to like extreme Islam, they go like belittling everyone and being so arrogant about it. I think like a true good person is, even if Islam didn't exist, they'd still be a good person, whereas they wouldn't need a religion to make them good, you know? So like, yeah, there's like Nabila said, there's like a few people you can really trust when it comes to the business practice.
Yeah, those like Nabila's insights in the hijabi model industry is pretty juicy. Juicy info for our audience. But
I bet.
Even for yourself, Monika. Like,
yeah, shout out to Swell Boutique, guys. Everyone shop there. She's
great.
Not just because I work with her. She's an amazing business worker.
Amazing person.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and she's gotten criticism, but it's nothing in comparison to what, you know, certain very, very modest people would, you know, in their actions are. But no, like a point that you made, the white people joke. It's funny. Raf's parents are obviously white, and I've done the whole, like, you know, trying to get a job at a modest boutique, and been like, you know, manipulated or, you know, treated unfairly and whatnot. But I'm like, oh, you know, this is just like, you kind of see them as your aunties, like they're in hijab, and you're like, oh. And you let them do what they are. And I tell Lisa, which is Raf's mom, and she'd be like, that's not fair. And, you know, she'd be like, oh, I need to call fair trading.
Yeah, she'd be like, I'm gonna call the Department of Fair Trading and expose this terrible business. And it was always like, but this is just like a normal workplace.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And then I started working in just a regular department store, and they're like, you know, I mean, they're kind of bound by law, but like they pay you correctly. They treat you so nicely. The same things that I would get like in trouble for at these like modest boutiques, they'd be like, oh, just, you know, like they just be nicer about it. I think just their adab is better than like, Muslims are supposed to be known for their really like, they're good at adab and like, all of that
Prophet
stuff.
came to perfect manners.
Yeah, and this is what, but it's funny, and you'll hear a lot of like really big modest models talk about how when they're working with modest fashion, they'll like kind of treat them like dirt, and they'll just like use them, and then even though they're doing so much for them. And then they work for like Nike, and Nike is just like kissing their feet. It's like a whole different experience.
Oh my God.
Even with Monika, your insights is really interesting because you do photography. I think Monika and Nabila have very obviously a relatability with their experiences. And it's ironic because firstly, obviously the reason people act the way they do is because of culture. Like they've been brought up in a way, especially like we're all mostly Bengalis except for Rafael, unfortunately. But
yeah, unfortunately, I was not blessed with.
But like like Nabila knows, Josh knows, Monica knows. You go Bangladesh, everyone's like trying to get as cheap as possible. It's like embedded in our culture to the point where it supersedes, religion and how we should act, and we take those kind of cultural aspects and import it into the West, and it doesn't work because the West is so different. You can't just go and bargain in the shop. So since the Bengalis know that they can't do it in the shop, they'll do it whenever they can. And it's when, businesses like us, like literally, like they'll know, we can bargain now, and the inner Bengaliness kicks in. But with my kind of experience, it's a bit slightly different because I work in the sports industry. So I sell like cricket gear. And we don't necessarily. I don't know if Monika, do you know cricket, like the sport?
Yeah, I know cricket.
Okay, cool. I don't know about America. They probably didn't know what cricket is, but I'm wrong.
The American Bengali have lost their culture.
But so my experience is a bit different because being in Sydney, there's a circle of kind of cricket gear importers and people who kind of sell the gear, the exporters as well. So there's like a mix of, there's white people, there's also like Indian people with their shops, and there's like, I think I'm literally the only Bengali with my other business partner. So what I realized is that quickly the word gets around if you're a dodgy bloke, if you amongst the people who sell cricket gear, if you're a dodgy bloke, or if you're cheap, or if your attitude is poor, or if you're very trustworthy and everything. So when I kind of got into the business, I saw that straight away because I have another friend who works in the business as well. He's like, look, I don't trust them because they did this and that to us, and the word quickly gets around. So quickly, as a Muslim, you're forced into a position to be ethical. You have to be ethical because if you're not ethical, not only is it going to impact your business in some way, actually it depends. If you're cheap, you might make money because of, you're being cheap, but I'm talking in terms of reputation, right? So your reputation will be tainted, but not only that, because we're Muslim, it's like a it will even worsen their reputation even more because, it's like, oh, look at those Muslims that are being cheap. So I guess me and my business partner will kind of push into a unique situation where we had to be, ethical, right? And it was a kind of interesting experience for me because it realized like, why do I have to resort to the non-Muslim community to be ethical when, your Muslim brothers are like the worst when it comes to business practices, right? So it's such a shame that, this is why they're almost in strife. That's why you have like, I don't know, FusiTube, going a bit crazy, right? Because like it boils down to these simple things. Like we can't even practice the religion properly. We're given, this beautiful way of life, and we can't even put it like we're too fixated on our own short-term goals or happiness or whatever. So that's my kind of personal experience as well in the business scene. So I think there's a sense of relatability in all aspects amongst our stories.
Yeah, and I think it's so sad that like, because we as Muslims, we think, oh, like alhamdulillah, that's a Muslim, we can work with them, and it's like it becomes so haram. You're like, oh my God, why did I even work with this person to begin with? Like you see their practice and you're like, what? Because like I've worked with people even in photography, and like you mentioned, I relate to you with the reputation and being ethical about things, and I've had people literally just recommend me for their weddings and stuff just simply because because like I just become good friends with you, and because I'm ethical, you know, I make sure you get everything that you need, you know, because there's obviously plenty of people who had really bad experience with like wedding photographers, videographers not giving their stuff or just not feeling comfortable of them having their pictures, you know. And I've literally had some people like lie and say that I still work with them in order to get more clients. Do you get what I'm saying? When I don't work with them anymore because they're not ethical, and they would get like clients and be like, yeah, I work with Monika. And like, I've literally had someone message me like, hey, where are the pictures? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, this person told me they work with you. Where's the pictures? I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, I do not work with this person for a reason. And this person freaked out, and then my other friends freaked out who are lawyers, and they were like, dude, like, you can sue her for defamation because that's going to ruin your brand and like your, business. And I'm like, oh my God. But I was like, no, isn't suing haram too? And I was just like, like, whatever, man, like, leave it up to Allah. And so like, I just let Allah do everything, and just, at the end of the day, like I even had to start my business all over again. It started off with someone, and then I just ended up doing it by myself. And as much as I was scared, I was like, you know what, Allah's going to take care of me, because unfortunately you can't work with a lot of people, and sometimes you just got to do it by yourself.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like we can't fall back on the community to sort of help us. And being Muslims, like you expect the Muslim community to be behind your back, but obviously we're not going to generalize. Yeah. Like it tends to be the white reverts for some reason that have that sense of ethicalness that. They really are a shining light on the ummah, because even not like being racist, but the Bengalis aren't the the best when it comes to these sort of practices. But even with Nabila, because she would tell me, she said herself now that in the modest hijab community, it seems like that's the direction we're heading. That it's hard to fully rely on the Muslim community and with yourself as well.
Yeah, and Tanzim, I just wanted to mention the fact that. Imam Malik talked about how the toenail of the believer is greater than the highest of the disbelievers, right? He mentioned that, but it's like, like the Muslims are doing so badly in this. How can
specifically to business?
Yeah, in business, right? How can we sit there and be proud of ourselves, right? When they're non-Muslims who run these businesses, most of them, like I'm sure, like to compare to where Nabila works now, probably like California girls, Monika.
Yeah,
like these are like the Australian California girls, like the version of that Bondi, the beach girls. These girls run a business and work in an environment and create an environment that is so much more friendly, so much more positive, and so much more like just like better manners, better pay, better treatment, better work than Muslim businesses. And it's like, shouldn't we be ashamed of ourselves? As a Muslim community, as an ummah as a whole,
raising non-Muslims.
No, we're not raising non-Muslims.
Muslims.
It's more indicative of how bad we are.
Yeah, it's just a reminder
how terrible our state is.
That we really should improve our state if we do want to be this representation that we're meant to be. We're meant to be.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It seems like yourself and I know Tanzim's business very well. Yourself, Monika, and Tanzim's business very well are really, really trying to do this. Alhamdulillah, and it's really good to see Muslims trying to integrate proper Islamic ethics into their businesses, because it's something that I've empirically witnessed is lost on a lot of Muslim businesses, and it's a shame.
Even if you need a selfish incentive, you're not going to have barakah in your business if you don't incorporate,
That's
and that enough. I
just want to be a millionaire. Is that a problem, Nabila?
He wants to be a millionaire so he can raise his dish out of poverty. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm selfless that way.
Yeah, best cricketer in the world.
Best cricket team in the world, Bangladesh.
Send a check to Sheikh Hasina.
Yeah. Oh heck no!
I'm gonna intercept that check when it gets to Sheikh Hasina, so she doesn't get it. But
Sheikh Hasina is actually related to us. Like, no, I'm not talking about, because we're all Bengalis. No, I know. No, I mean, he's my my first cousin's grandma. I'm like, oh, that's great.
Wait. Tanzim's also got a cousin that's something related to Sheikh Hasina.
Okay.
So my mom's, I think my mom's uncle or something, like he's the minister for Bangladesh. So he works under Khaleda Zia.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the deputy prime minister. Khaleda Zia's in jail now, but like when she was the opposition leader, he was like under us. So it was crazy. Like, sorry, I know this is getting off topic, but they were trying to they're trying to hunt down all the ministers. So Sheikh Hasina appointed people to kind of get people and jail them from the opposition party. And so my mum's uncle's like in hiding for like months,
Wow.
just like randomly. Yeah, it's pretty
That
ridiculous.
sounds like my uncle. It's the same situation.
It's like real life hide and seek.
Yeah, right.
My dad's and my like grandfather's like a farmer from like the outskirts of Bangladesh, like no one's heard of.
My family too.
That's me as well. That's me as well. Hey, Italians have a lot of farmers as well, eh?
Yeah, that's it. They're like goat farmers.
Goat farmers. Oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
But
goats is like the biggest industry in my dad's like village area.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. So we actually, I think, in general, we've touched on a lot of points and discussion, and inshallah, a lot of people benefit from it. But I wanted to, before like we wrap things up, we actually asked this question to our guest. It's actually the hardest question. Like people get stumped. I don't know why. It seems so simple,
Okay.
but here it goes.
Okay.
Get ready for it. So if you had to chill with 3 people in history, it could be anyone you've probably met or someone you've looked up to, and preferably we say if you can shed light on maybe your industry or who you work with, someone that's been a role model to you, who would you chat with in a cave?
In a cave? What?
Because boys in the cave are in a cave.
Oh,
yeah.
true. Okay. Excuse my American slang. Okay, I'm pretty ghetto. But anyways, okay, definitely I would say the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Like definitely him, because he definitely inspires me in sense of like character and stuff. Because trust me, without him, I would feel so lost as a human being. And because we all have a good and a bad side, and I would say he definitely helped me go more onto the good side, because we can easily be on the bad side. And I was on the bad side, and something in me just made me go on the good side, especially listening to his story. So definitely him. Prophet Yusuf, simply because he's good looking. Okay, why not?
That's a unique point.
Oh, yes. And third person. I would honestly ask Donald Trump, because what are you doing, my dude? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you acting the way this isn't like your show anymore. This is a real life. So for me, like, I love to talk to people who have different opinions and like different thoughts of perspectives on things, because, a lot of people get like all flabbergasted and like angry and all this and that. But I'm the kind of person who loves to understand people from where they come from. So I would definitely say Donald Trump, even though that sounds weird, just because I want to know, like, why are you being the way you are,
It's actually, I want to reword the question, but before I do that, your first point, like you touched on Rasulullah, that you specifically mentioned, what it means to be a human being. That's actually pretty profound, because, I was doing some reading and stuff a few months back about this. And you have so many philosophies out there, atheism or other religions, other ways of thinking, Marxism, whatever. And the profound thing about Islam is that, with the Quran and the Hadith, as a Muslim, who you are. And it's such a simple question, like, what is a human being? It's such a, cliched, seems like a cliched question, but it's been grappled with over the history, right? Like an atheist will be like, we're just atoms and, we're here. And so you just pretty much fulfill your desires, do what you want, but follow the rules of the society that we're in, sort of thing, right? It doesn't value you, right? But, Islam in particular, you're raised to such a level that, we're, the believing men are, higher than the angels, essentially. And the angels, because we have free will, we get to choose, the angels don't, right? So automatically in Islam, your worth as a human being compared to, all other creatures that exist, right? And at the same time, it makes you aware that what is your purpose? What's your, reason for existence? These profound questions, Islam came with that. So, it's definitely important to really grapple with the idea of, what it means to be a human being, right? And, Rene Descartes talked about it, all this sort of stuff. So it's, it was a simple point that you made, but it's so profound as well. But in regards to the question, because everyone got to pick the prophets, so we'll make it a bit different. We'll say excluding Sahaba and Rasulullah or any of the prophets, because let's be real, everyone's going to pick them anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to pick 3 other people.
3 other people?
Yeah.
Keep Donald Trump, and there's just two others.
Keep Donald Trump. He's all right.
Wait, why not Donald Trump? Why doesn't he count?
He counts.
We'll keep him in the cave.
Keep him in the cave for now.
Oh God.
No,
Okay.
two other people, yeah.
It can be other Muslim figures, stuff like that.
I would definitely ask. Have you guys heard of Yasmin Mojahed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone-
she's. Yeah. Oh, she went there before.
Isn't she?
She's been to Australia like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. She's pretty big. She's promoted her book and stuff.
Yeah, I have so much respect for her, and I feel like I can empathize and relate to her in the sense, like, I can tell that in order for her to become such a good writer and understanding the emotions, she's probably been through a lot, you know? And so I would want to discuss about what she's been through and, like, you know, how she learned what she did, and yeah, so definitely her. Another person. I would say, have you heard of Ahmed Didat? He passed away.
Yeah, he's our hero in the cave. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. Oh my God. I was watch his debates. Oh my, he is hilarious. I would honestly, it would be between him and Mufti Menk, because like they're so funny and like, mashallah, they have so much knowledge, and the way they spread it is so like humbling, and like it just really makes you bring your iman back. So it would be between those two as well. So
yeah, subhanAllah. Like Ahmed Didat, because me, Josh, Rafael talked about with Subra Ahmed on a different episode that he really revolutionized the Dawah scene, don't you think? Like Rafael, Josh?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He was very influential in my coming to Islam as well, and just consolidating a lot of the arguments that were certainly presented to Islam. You know, like you hear a lot of negative things about the religion, and then you have people like Ahmed Didat who are up on a pedestal, who are up on a platform, rather, not a pedestal, although they are up on a pedestal in the Muslim community, up on a platform defending Islam and defending our ideas, so that many people just like me can and yourself, Monika, too, can come into the deen and really have that kind of safety net, you know, of knowing that to these questions. And that's an incredibly important role. I just want to wrap up quickly before we wrap up on a point of just reminding our audience of something very important. And that's something that Dr. Muhammad Gilan mentioned to us. And he said that Dr. Muhammad Gilan mentioned the fact that if something bad happens to you in your life, and if something bad happens to you, you know, just something, anything that happens to your life is because Allah made it happen. And you have to take the lessons from that. Dr. Gilan talks about, if you have a fight with your wife or you have a disagreement with someone, it's because Allah is trying to teach you a lesson about yourself. Yeah. And so I think we all have to remember in this time of fitna, where a lot of people are talking about what famous YouTubers are doing, we have to be introspective and what people in the community are doing in their businesses. We have to be introspective and say, well, what is Allah trying to teach me from this situation that I'm in? And I think that's something we all need to take home from any discussion about
rather
other
than
people.
Calling out these people who we feel have betrayed us in some way or
broke
another.
Our hearts,
It's more about looking at us and how we're reacting to this, and why are we reacting this way, and what does it say about
and I think
us?
that's what I tried to get back to. It's
self-reflection.
Like, who are we as a ummah, and who are we as individuals that we're putting individuals on a pedestal like this? We should be focusing on ourselves and focusing on our deen and trying to become the best Muslims that we can. And at the end of the day, that's all that's important. And so I just wanted to
just to add to that as well, that we probably didn't touch on it, but it's interesting that you bring that up now. It's the fact that you obviously, you know, now in this day and age, you have this, you know, you start, you know, perhaps seeing, you know, Muslim women taking off their hijab, and maybe someone is going through it right now, one of our audiences, we don't know, right? Even for a Muslim guy, maybe he's shy to show, you know, talk about his faith at work or be proud of, you know, him being Muslim. He has to act like a non-Muslim.
Well, you know, Tanzim, praying at work, that's something that you mention about a lot. Like some guys don't pray at work because they're just ashamed to, you know, tuck themselves away somewhere and pray in front of people, you know?
Yeah, because I want to actually touch on that specifically, because end of the day, we have to, you know, have our aqidah in check, right? Just be like, you know, who is Allah? What is Allah, you know? And if you actually conceptualize the fact that Allah controls everything, Allah is, you know, the ruler of the heavens and of the earth, that suddenly should shift your mind. Like when you go into work, you shouldn't be thinking that, oh, because I wear the hijab, they're going to judge me, so I'm not going to get that promotion, so this and that, right? Like I think we naturally go into a negative frame of mind in regards to our job opportunities when it comes to being openly Muslim in the workplace, for example, right? But if you conceptualize the idea of Allah being in control of everything, right, you'll know that there'll be, reasons for why things happen. Yeah, sure, in the moment it will seem like, oh, because of, wearing the hijab, I don't know, your manager's racist, but doors will open from others. Allah's not going to leave you, hanging, if that's what I'm trying to get at. So I guess at the end of the day, just be proud of, being Muslim, and don't think that, oh, because I'm being a Muslim, it's going to restrict me, right? Because there's going to be instances where it will benefit you. Being a Muslim, man or a Muslim woman and being a leader in a certain, aspect in a certain work industry or whatever, it will benefit you potentially, right? You could be a figurehead in the community, in the Muslim community easily. So I guess, I just wanted to note on that point. But regardless though, Monika, thanks for your time. And I'm sure, I don't know what time it is there at wherever you live.
It's like 6:58 p.m.
Oh, really? Oh, subhanAllah. So definitely hustling and, work up early to record this episode for us. But Jazakallah khair for coming on Boys in the Cave.
No, PM. I think it's PM.
Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. And Nabila, let's add each other on Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah.
You should reactivate your Instagram, Monika, and then you can follow her. Stalk her on Nabila's Instagram and then deactivate later.
No, definitely. I've got a little private one, so we can add each other on that one for sure.
Oh, that's a slip of the tongue for your audience now. They're gonna be like searching.
Oh, true.
Oh no! What have I done?
It's all good.
Yeah, inshallah. I hope we can have probably more conversations in the future, because it's beneficial.
Sure.
Because usually in Boys in the Cave we like to really take topics and like very intellectual discussions, but sometimes we got to talk on the level of what's just happening in society. So it's definitely great having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So for our listeners, thank you for giving us your attention. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us at info@boysinthecave.com or find us on Facebook, and you can follow our journey through Instagram. Please leave a 5-star rating on iTunes, as that greatly helps us. I actually had a funny story with our YouTube page. So, audience probably know about the Thai boys that got trapped. Like, alhamdulillah, they got, out of that situation. But because of that, they filtered our YouTube page like to the third or fourth page when you search up Boys in the Cave, because all of these articles and clips on YouTube. So if you want to find us on YouTube, search Boys in the Cave podcast and it will come up. So if you just search Boys in the Cave on YouTube, it won't come up, unfortunately. But just keep that in mind, inshallah, when you try to search for us on YouTube. And even with Patreon, support us, because we have, a lot of plans, and inshallah, with your support, we can definitely improve content, improve, the quality of our production as well, and potentially even go video in the future. So for our special guest, Monika Sarker, our special co-host guest, Nabila, and our regular co-host, Josh, Rafael, and myself, we wish you all the best. This is Tanzim signing off. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum. Thank you so much, Monika. That was so good.
Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome.